Okay, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to everyone around the globe, and a very warm welcome to the second session of our annual Land Degradation Neutrality webinar series. My name is Professor Paul Hallett. I'm president of the British Society of Soil Science, and I'm also a professor of soil science at the University of Aberdeen. So the British Society of Soil Science is an international membership organization, and we are committed to the study of soil in its widest aspects. We have various partnerships, including with the UNCCD. So before we begin, just a few quick housekeeping points. So this webinar is being recorded. Please keep your microphones muted during presentations to avoid background noise. There is simultaneous translation into Spanish, French, and English. So please choose the channel of your preference by clicking on the world icon. You're warmly encouraged to use the chat box to introduce yourself, share reflections, and post your questions at any time. We'll dedicate time for interaction and questions and answers with the panelists after the presentations. We also kindly ask you to remain respectful and concise in your contributions so that many voices as possible can be heard. So this series takes place within the framework of the project Strengthening Civil Society Role in Achieving Land Degradation Neutrality. This is supported by the Global Environment Facility and implemented by Drynet, the IUCN, and both ends. So this annual webinar series aims to enhance the knowledge and capacities of civil society organizations on key topics related to land degradation neutrality, or often known by the acronym LDN. Remember that participants who fully attend at least 3 of the 4 webinars will receive a certificate of participation. So over the next 60 minutes, we will explore land degradation neutrality, drawing on the experience and insights of our distinguished panelists. The objectives of today's webinar are to understand the background, origin of LDN and its linkages with the Sustainable Development Agenda, and the UNCCD at global and national levels. It's also to familiarize you with key elements of the LDN conceptual framework, gaining a clear overview of its objectives, approaches, principles, enabling conditions, and indicators, and finally, to learn about mechanisms for inclusive LDN at national and subnational level, including engagement of CSOs and LDN target setting, implementation, and monitoring. So what I would like to do now is introduce our first panelist. This is Dr. Baron Joseph Orr, a very distinguished panelist. He's the chief scientist for the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification, the UNCCD. He's also professor emeritus at the University of Arizona in the US, where he also served as a NASA geospatial extension specialist. Prior to joining the UNCCD Secretariat, he was named a Marie Curie Fellow at the University of Alicante in Spain and an independent scientist for the UNCCD Science Policy Interface. He is the co-lead author of the Scientific Conceptual Framework on Land Degradation Neutrality, which was formally endorsed by the 197 parties to the UNCCD in 2017. So Dr. Orr, I'll hand over to you for your presentation about LDN conceptual framework. So you have the floor for 10 minutes.
Thank you very much, Paul, and thank you to all the organizers of this project, and most importantly to everybody online who are engaged in this. And I think the PowerPoint's being brought up by the organizers, right? Yes, okay. So I will give a quick introduction into land degradation neutrality. Next slide, please. So the big question for this seminar is, next slide, why are we here? Is it because we walked here? Next slide. Or is it because up to 40% of the terrestrial ecosystems of the Earth are degraded? Next slide, please. When we think about that degradation, we think about the environment and we also think about people. So we're here because of the planet itself. Next slide, please. And what we need to understand is this degradation is actually like burning the candle at both ends. Next slide, please. Where on one side, 75% of ice-free terrestrial ecosystems have already been transformed from their natural state for human use. And then, depending on the way you measure it, 1 in 4, 1 in 5, 1 in 6 of those hectares is no longer usable for its original intended purpose. It's no longer productive. Next slide, please. What is the primary driver of land use change and land degradation? Next slide. Most people think about land degradation and we think about the too many goats on the landscape and that kind of image of erosion. But the reality is the primary underlying driver of everything I've talked about so far is us. It's the clothes we're wearing, the food we ate today, very likely contributed to land degradation somewhere else in the world. Next slide, please. So in this context, we're thinking about SDG 15, life on land. And we know that all of these goals are laudable. They're good goals. But what we don't always think about is they compete for land, the same land resources. Next slide, please. And so what can we do about that? How can we address it? And the key here is to have a balanced approach, something that anticipates new degradation, even as we plan to reverse past degradation. An approach that considers trade-offs among environmental, social, and economic interests on the landscape. It's about doing the right things in the right places at the right scale. And LDN provides a framework for this. Next slide, please. That framework includes, as you read this, ecosystem functions, food security, and human well-being. Next slide, please. And what's important in this slide is actually the third bullet, or the second and third together. Keeping land in balance means that we can get our food, energy, water, carbon, biodiversity in balance as well. In other words, we can meet many objectives, not only land degradation goals. Next slide, please. The focus here is the word "and." It's not only about ecosystems or only about food or only about human well-being. It's all of these taken together. Next slide, please. And we have to recognize that this is a holistic approach. It's a no net loss approach. It means that we will do no further harm than when we started, which was at the beginning of the SDGs. And it's got principles like for like, where we only address LDN within each land type so that we don't consume one land type and sacrifice it in order to protect others. Next slide, please. Inside of that frame is the mechanism for neutrality. We call it counterbalancing. Future losses of new degradation counterbalanced by restoration of past degradation. And to do this, we have to lift our sights from management to planning so that we actually get in the space where these decisions are made about what to do where. Next slide, please. Integrated and inclusive land use planning is also known as spatial planning, territorial planning. It is the key to having success, not only in addressing land degradation, but I would argue in meeting any of the SDGs because they compete for land. So getting it right of what we do where can make all the difference. Next slide, please. So what about management, which is what we mostly talk about? Next slide. We know that it's about right things, right places, and right scale. Next slide. And we know that prevention is better than cure. This is the hierarchy of response under LDN. We need to protect what's not degraded foremost. We need to bring sustainable practices into where we've already converted land for agriculture and other uses. And we need a lot of restoration of what's no longer usable. Next slide, please. But because one size doesn't fit all, there's no magic bullet to what we do on the ground. Next slide, please. We have to recognize, as the IPCC spelled out very well, and is not possible to read on this slide, but I highly recommend you look at the special report on climate change and land, because it brings us from the marketing-oriented solutions that have to do with what we eat, have to do with value chains, all the way to check dams and other solutions on the ground, agroforestry, regenerative agriculture, the whole suite of sustainable land management. But the mix of these and doing the right things in the right places is key. Next slide, please. So, do we have environmental and social safeguards? Next slide. Yes, they are built in through guiding principles of LDN. Next slide, please. Which are based on the social side in particular, the voluntary guidelines for tenure. And these have, the second document here is the integration of these fully into how we pursue LDN. Next slide, please. So how is LDN monitored? Paul is very interested in this question as a soil scientist. And what's important here is that we use the word indicator as being indicative. So what we do nationally to globally is simple: land cover change, land productivity, soil organic carbon. What we do nationally to locally is complex and depends on local context and can have any mix of indicators that are necessary. Next slide, please. LDN is integral to the SDGs. It's particularly SDG target 15.3. And the indicator 15.3.1 has those three sub-indicators. Next slide, please. And those variables are good because one is transformational, one changes rapidly, a fast ecological variable, productivity, and yet is influenced by something as simple as rainfall. So it's kind of problematic that way, but that's balanced by a slow ecological variable, soil organic carbon. If it's not in the soil is dead, and it's likely that carbon is in the atmosphere. If the soil is dead, we don't have biodiversity. You can see how fundamental this is to LDN. Next slide, please. And this is just a look at how this, in this case it's Ghana, but how this looks when it's done nationally in each country. Next slide. And with that, I'd like to thank you and pass it back to Natalie. And join us in Panama. That last slide was the orchid. In Panama, we have the creek, our intersessional meeting, which takes place the first week of December.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Baron, for that fascinating presentation. We're going to move through the three panelists, And while you're doing that, if you have any questions, at the bottom of the screen, you'll see a Q&A tab. If you tap on that, you can type in specific questions. And at the end of the 3 talks, we will answer all those as a group. But I'd like to now give the floor to the second panelist. So that's Ms. Pinar Kamli, and she will share with us the LDN experience in Turkey. So Ms. Pinar Kamli is an expert from the General Directorate for Combating Desertification and Erosion in the Ministry of Environment, Urbanization, and Climate Change for the Republic of Turkey. For over 10 years, she's been following international processes related to combating desertification on behalf of Turkey and contributing to the preparation of related projects. She participated in developing the National Strategy and Action Plan on combating desertification and was actively involved in setting the LDN targets. Currently, she is coordinating national level activities on behalf of Turkey in the LDN target setting process 2.0. So Pinar, you have the floor for 10 minutes. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. I am glad to be here with you today. I would like to give brief information with my presentation to you, my country LDN target setting process and how we involved CSOs into this process. First slide, please. As you all know, the LDN target setting program was initiated following COP12 Decision 3. This decision invited parties to formulate voluntary targets to achieve land degradation neutrality, according to their national circumstances and development priorities. Turkey established its national LDN targets in 2016 as part of the first target setting program with 14 pilot countries. This was the beginning of our journey toward achieving land degradation neutrality at the national level. Next slide, please. Building on these targets, the second phase of the LDN TSP began in 2023. The UNCCD Secretariat wanted to take one step further. The goal was to make the targets more specific, measurable, achievable, reportable, and time-bound. The new targets are also expected to be gender responsive, aligned with other Rio conventions, and spatially monitorable. To address these priorities, we identified the main thematic areas. These include forestry, agriculture pasture, women, integrated land use planning, and synergy among the 3 Rio conventions. Next slide, please. To implement these thematic priorities effectively, we conducted a very detailed partner analysis. Civil society organizations are among our key partners. They bring strong field experience and are closely connected with local communities. So, governmental institutions also maintain a close relationship with CSOs to ensure effective implementation and collaboration. Next slide, please. Based on this analysis, we started holding meetings with our stakeholders. During these meetings, we explained the LDN concept and our national strategy. We also introduced the second phase of the target setting process and discussed the steps we need to take to improve our national targets. Next slide, please. Following these consultations, we prepared target setting forms for each thematic area to gather input from the relevant institutions. These forms were officially shared to make sure the process was participatory and transparent. Once we received the draft targets and we analyzed them carefully, we looked for gaps, overlaps, and any areas that required further clarification or improvement. Next slide, please. On 29 April, we held the validation workshop. The main goal of the workshop were verifying the targets, addressing questions about reporting, monitoring, and verification, identifying duplications, evaluating UNCCD priorities within the target context, and positioning the targets within the LDN intervention hierarchy. At the end of the workshop, we finalized our national targets and moved to the next phase. Currently, we are conducting a gender sensitivity analysis of the targets. We have also signed a protocol with focal point institutions of the other Rio conventions and organized Rio Synergy workshop last week. These days, we are preparing the remaining reports related to these activities. The final step will be to develop a project proposal. This proposal will be based on lessons learned and our national expectations and needs to further improve our progress toward achieving land degradation targets. I would like to give some example of CSO's partnership that help us achieve our targets. As I mentioned, CSOs are among the main implementation partners in Turkey. At the beginning of this year, we started implementing a GEF7 project. The Nature Conservation Center is our implementation partner, and they are responsible for coordinating all project activities together with our institution. Next slide, please. Our national combating desertification strategy activities are also monitored through an online platform. Some of these activities are implemented directly by CSOs, and they report their progress on the platform annually. From the governmental side, collaboration with CSOs is a high priority. Personally, in addition to my governmental role, I also serve as Vice Chair of a CSO, the Ecology and Research Association. So I am involved with both the governmental and CSO sides. To be more effective in the process, CSO accreditation to the UNCCD and other Rio conventions is essential. As organizations that truly understand on the ground realities, CSOs can create powerful synergies and serve as a bridge between local actions and global efforts, especially when they remain actively engaged with international developments. I strongly believe that CSOs play a vital role in this context. They bring unique perspectives and can voice concerns that might otherwise go unheard, representing the interest of communities and the public. In my view, achieving a land degradation neutral world is only possible through inclusive and meaningful partnership with CSOs. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Pinar, for another very informative presentation. Some great questions are being answered or being, asked in our Q&A box. So please answer or please ask any questions you have with that, and we will address them at the end of the seminars. So finally, I'd like to give the floor to Mr. Luis Salgueiro to share with us the experience of LDN implementation on the ground. So Luis Salgueiro is a Peruvian forestry engineer. He has over 25 years of professional experience in sustainable development, climate change, and environmental finance. As the Director of Nature-Based Solutions and Climate Finance at EcoTierra, his work centers on creating innovative financing structures that leverage climate finance and private impact investment to support sustainable production systems, consolidate value chains, strengthen producer organizations, and deliver high-quality environmental assets across Latin America and Canada. So, Louis, I'll pass over to you, and you have the floor for 10 minutes.
Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon. I don't know where you are over the globe. Thanks to the organizers for this invitation and the opportunity to share with you part of our work experience with coffee producers, and in this case, with agroforestry in Peru. I would like to mention that this is a private-to-private initiative. We work and we coordinate with government institutions, but it's not part of any governmental program. Next one, please. I would like to briefly introduce you to EcoTierra. EcoTierra is a private company. We are a sustainable agroforestry project developer and operator, and we work directly with the small farmers to responsibly use the land to accelerate community development. And we tackle mainly two elements: climate change and land degradation. We are not alone in our work. EcoTierra has two other entities working on the same ecosystem. Finca, that is our commercial arm. No? They are focused on the commercialization of the commodities that we produce in our initiatives. And the other is the URAPI Land Degradation Neutrality Fund. That is focused on financing the initiatives and helping us implement different financial mechanisms. We are around 100 professionals in 4 countries for the moment. We are starting operations in Brazil also. We started in Peru, and I will talk with you about that. Our model is related to project design, in coordination with local partners, mainly cooperatives and producers organizations, development of financing with partnership with these producer organizations and end buyers of the different commodities. We operate projects in very long term compared to other projects. We stay with the producers for periods between 10 and 15 years to assure that this transition and this change of paradigm of production is consolidated at least, and we work on the commercialization, as I mentioned, with our branch Finca. Next one, please. This is the core of what we do. We work with producers to reduce the degradation of soil, changing. In the case of this initiative that is called Café Selva Norte, that is in north of Peru, in the region of Cajamarca, for the ones who know Peru, Cajamarca, San Martin, and Amazonas, that are in the northern part of the jungle, the mountain jungle of Peru. We have a problem of land degradation related to migratory agriculture, with low yield and low income. There are loss of natural capital because they don't have any more land of their own to produce, and carbon stocks are being reduced also. So they go over new lands, increasing land degradation and deforestation. What we do is we propose and we co-design with them sustainable agroforestry systems with a program for soil restoration and reforestation. We work with them to increase yields and increase the quality of the coffee that they are producing. Therefore, they have increased income, and we add to that carbon credit generations to diversify the revenue flow. Now, in parallel to that, we are working with several private conservation areas that are inside the coffee production region of the north of Peru, to help them reduce deforestation related to coffee producers, biodiversity protection, and diversify income. We have a project with them related to avoid the deforestation under the UNFCCC, the Convention on Climate Change, and the VCS, that is a standard for the carbon market. And these two initiatives, they work together in synergy. I will talk about that in the next slides, over the next slides. Next, please. So this is a little bit of what we do. When we arrive, typical producers with small scale agriculture, with low investment capacity or no investment capacity, with very low yields and very low income that are being reduced year by year. This generates land degradation, generate deforestation because they are migrating to other lands, and you close this circle with the loss of their natural capital and the carbon reserves. So we relate this. If we relate this to the LDN, we avoid deforestation working with the private conservation areas in coffee producing regions, as I mentioned before, to mitigate the impact of coffee in existing forest. We reduce erosion and soil loss with integration of agroforestry systems, and we reverse degradation by breaking the cycle of slash and burn agriculture in the region. Now, with the participation of Ecotierra and the Café Selva Norte initiative, we increase the investment capacity of the producers with microcredits or other financial mechanisms. We assure or we improve the quality of the yield and increase the income of the producers. We diversify the business portfolio of the organizations or the producers, including carbon credits, including timber in the medium and long term. And we assure soil restoration and reforestation. And there is a commercial infrastructure to add value to the products and the commodities, and we will talk about that in the next slides. And we have the carbon credits and revenues that are allowing that this whole circle exists. Next, please. So what we do with Café Selva Norte, we start developing a financial mechanism for the producers for them to be able to implement the agroforestry system for the renovation of aging coffee farms or the restoration of degraded lands into agroforestry systems. We also have a state-of-the-art processing mill that is coded by COPS and ourselves. This is to assure that there is improved quality on the final product, and they have traceability over their own product. At the end of our intervention, this coffee mill will be bought by the COPS, so they will continue operating it and continue their process. We have monitoring activities for environmental impacts and carbon credit generation with two verified carbon standard VCS certified projects, one for reforestation with the agroforestry and the other for forest conservation, as I mentioned, with private conservation areas. We work with Eleva Finca, as I mentioned, is our branch for commercialization. We are generating added value to that. Most of the cooperatives, they don't have access to some market because simply they don't speak English or they don't have the capacity to travel and work with buyers, with better buyers. Many times they are not able to go farther because the intermediaries are blocking the road. but we are able to break these barriers and make them being able to access new and better markets. And we have tailored technical assistance for all cooperatives that are working with us. We have a land use team that is working on each of our projects, that are visiting each participant and being sure that they are implementing the agroforestry system as they should. Next, please. This is our coffee mill that, as I mentioned, is co-owned with the cooperatives, because agroforestry and carbon need to be complemented with other added value and the strengthening of the value chain to achieve sustainability. This allows us to capture the value of the whole model, and that our investment or the investments of URAPI are viable. We have our own mill, we have our own traceability system that allows us to produce high quality coffee, to access premium markets, and to ensure a significantly higher final income for the producer. In year 2024, we reached over 140 containers. This year, we are increasing this production. So cooperatives are starting to see the difference of having a sustainable production on the field. We have access to better buyers also. Next, please. This is a small representation of our model. As I mentioned, URAPI is financing this SPV is a special purpose vehicle. It's a financial entity where URAPI, that is our branch for financing, and the cooperatives are together. And we have on the number one, we have loans to the co-ops that provide microcredit to the producers to change to agroforestry systems, and they bring coffee to the cooperative, so they are able to sell the coffee. The second one, we have equity investment on infrastructure, as I show you the coffee mill, but there could be other investments also related to the infrastructure. And we have a sales platform with the Leva Finca, so we can have a better access with coffee, but also with carbon credits and timber when timber is ready to the global market. So we have the value chain reinforced there. And the third part is the equity investment in carbon projects. As I mentioned, we have two carbon projects, one for reforestation, and the other for forest conservation. And this one is giving strong indicators of environmental and social development that are very important for the investors that put their money in URAPI, and also for the buyers of our commodities. It brings it helped us tell a very interesting story for all the external partners. Next one, please. And I think this one is very important because these three elements are not working independently or alone. They work together. If we have better quality and more volume produced, then we can have better access to markets with better revenues. But also, if we have a good carbon impact monitoring, this help the value chain reinforcement, because we have a strong indicator for sustainability and impact. If we have a conservation of soil and improve of biomass in the land of our producers, we increase the carbon stocks, and we have additional resources for the field that they can reinvest in improving their production capacity and the quality of their yield. Next one, please. So it's not easy. The title is not a good one, because the title of this one is Challenges and Solutions. It's very difficult to put this in place on the field. We have a lot of tools to do this, but we have been working since with the Café Selva Norte since year 2019, and we are still learning a lot. No, the integration of new areas is difficult. It's not always easy to find eligible areas, and producers are not always willing to participate in innovative mechanisms. No, it's difficult to convince them to change to another way of doing things. The long-term sustainability is also a challenge because there are producing paradigms, and we need to educate a lot the producers and the organization. They have a way to do things, and when we want to change with traceability, with monitoring, with new varieties of coffee or new ways of doing commercialization, it's difficult to do that. The variable climatic conditions are also a problem. We need to have adequate data collection, and we need to implement monitoring to be able to adapt to risk. Agroforestry is very important to reduce this risk, but it's a risk. But we have also learned how to tackle these challenges. The identification of good partners. We are working with better and better partners. We are now working with banks and with some governmental programs that were seen before as a competition for us. We are working with them. We are making alliances, and it's working very, very well. The alignment of interest and the social acceptability between the stakeholders and the project is very important. This is part of our core in Ecotierra, that we co-design things. We don't arrive with the list of things that we finance or something that we want to do, and they do it or they don't. No, we are open from the beginning, and I think this a big part of our success is related to this. We are aligned and we have the same objectives, and we work together adapting the solutions during the process also. Quality control and training is very important. We need to educate people, and we need to learn from them also what they are doing. And we need to have climate smart planning, introducing a species, or not introducing, but using a species that are adapted or that are native to the area is very important. We need to train farmers in adaptive management, strategic planning for drought or when there is excess of rain, using zonation to avoid planting in high risk areas. It's also part of the solution that we have learned during this whole process. So it's not an easy work. This was our first project, and now we have 5 projects in total, and we are starting 2 more. And we are working now in Colombia and Peru and Honduras, and we are starting working in Brazil. So it's a model that is able to replicate, and I hope that it will be successful in the future also. Thanks.
Right. Thank you very much, Louis, for that fascinating presentation too. And they've all complemented each other nicely. The other thing is they're exactly on time. So it is now 1:45. If people have questions, you have 2 options. There's a Q&A box, and I'm going to start reading off some questions from that. But also you're able to raise your hand to ask a question as well. But I'm going to start off with a few questions from the Q&A box. And I want to start with a question that's been targeted at Baron, and he's already addressed, but I want to bring in a couple questions together. And this is all about some of the acronyms that have been used. So there's been LDN, LD conservation, sometimes it's LD restoration or conversion, and we've also heard terms like nature-based solutions. So Baron, I don't know if you could comment on the differences between these and some of the nuances behind it.
So, there's a wide range of terminology out there, and some of it is embraced by intergovernmental processes, which makes it part of the language we use under the UNCCD, but a lot of it is not, like regenerative agriculture, agroecology, et cetera, many, many terms. And what we have done is we've commissioned 2 alignment studies, one on the terms which are intergovernmentally agreed, which include sustainable land management, ecosystem-based adaptation or adaptation processes, and eco-DRR for disaster risk reduction, and nature-based solutions. So those have been analyzed, and then more recently, many of these other terms that are not intergovernmentally agreed have been analyzed. And what the long and the short of it is, they all fall under SLM. So the SLM is much older, so it actually is richer than any of the others individually, but all of them fit under that umbrella. And the way I look at it is that you need to understand the community that you're working in. So if you're working with agroecology, you learn about their principles, et cetera. But to link to intergovernmental processes, it's important to understand sustainable land management and land degradation neutrality. That's my quick answer. I put a more detailed one on the specific terms that were raised in the chat, in the Q&A, sorry.
Great. Thanks very much, Baron, for that one. I'm going to pass over a question now to Pinar. And this, again, I'm combining a few people's questions here. But essentially, can you share examples of where the mechanisms you've used in Turkey for CSOs contribute to information on LDN reporting? And then how do you think your experiences could be shared with other regions? So there was a question specifically aimed at Turkey, or not Turkey, aimed at Nigeria, and how similar practices could be implemented there.
I try to explain with the chat box our strategy they work with the CSOs. There are a lot of CSOs is working on the field in my country, but as a government side, we need to take ourselves in a grant side. So we, when we are collaborating with a CSO, we are looking their works which have done before on the field, and also when we are preparing our national strategy, these CSOs are directly participated our meetings, workshops, and they explain their views about the strategy and their plans. If we evaluate all of these inputs, and then we decided or we examined about their application. We are looking what they can do it or not, and then we integrated these targets to our national strategy, and we have a monitoring system. They are annually reported their activities onto this system. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. And I'm now going to go through all the panelists. So I'll ask a question to Louis that comes from Evans Odum. And it is, what proven innovative financing mechanisms are helping developing countries implement and sustain LDN projects beyond just having donor support? So do you have any case studies where there's support that goes beyond donors?
Well, as I mentioned, this is private financing. URAPI is an investment fund that is asking for a return of investment. So all our interventions are firstly approved by the URAPI board. They have a return, and that's why we need to diversify our revenues. We are not only working with agroforestry with small producers. We need to have a scale, and that's why we added also the carbon revenues and the timber revenues, and that's why we have a coffee mill with a commercialization branch that assures us that we will maximize the revenues for all the members, including URAPI and including the cooperatives and the producers. There are not many models like this one in the world. I think we are pioneers of this, and it's and as I mentioned, it's not easy. It's difficult. It's not always successful, and we have other experiences where things are not working as they should. But we need to adapt. That's the other thing, that we need to adapt. The adaptation is very important.
Great. So while you're still up there, Louis, I'm going to ask one more question of you. And you mentioned it a bit in your talk, but how are you monitoring the land degradation and its improvement in your project areas?
Yeah, it's mainly linked to the carbon market. We have two projects related to the carbon market, one for reforestation and the other for forest conservation. In both cases, we need to have a baseline that shows that before our intervention, there was a process leading to degradation, or the land was already degraded. So for each area, we need to have an assessment of the evolution of the land, the historical land use, and then we monitor the implementation of the activities or the conservation of the forest. So we have an ESG team that is generating all these indicators based on land surveys and also SIG.
Okay, thank you very much for that. What we will do is I'm going to take a couple more questions from the chat box, and then if people put their hands up, you will be selected by the organizers to ask questions with your microphone. This is one to all the panelists, and it's about emerging technology. So it's from Johannes Lauders. Are you making use of advanced technologies such as drones, AI analysis, or robotics? And how do you think this can contribute to reaching LDN and finding better solutions? So that's open to any of the panelists just to comment on this opportunity from advanced technologies.
May I?
Yep, go ahead, Pinar.
I would like to give our one of example we implement in our country. We have established a monitoring system, land degradation neutrality decision support system, we call it. And with this platform, we monitor the land degradation trends in our country according to three main parameters, and also we integrate our national monitoring system into the decision support system, and like we can emerge it with we can interpret it with three indicators, and also our national monitoring system, and we can see how the concepts in terms of land degradation status in our country. I can share our decision support system link via chat box. I can give you this example for you. Thank you.
Great, thanks very much, Pinar. Does anyone else want to comment on advanced technologies? Okay, I have a general question I just want to ask all the panelists, and it's about the UNCCD. How can you help national governments and via things like your CSO engagement platforms to enable more participation of CSOs in national strategy development and implementation? So I assume this is from regions where they feel that they could be involved more with the UNCCD? Would anyone like to answer that?
I can jump in a general way, but maybe some of the CSO entities that are part of the team here might want to jump in too. There is an umbrella for CSOs under the governance framework of the UNCCD that has been very effective. In fact, they've even become part of the agenda of the Conference of the Parties, which is not true in any of the other processes, although they're influential in the other processes. But to be part of governance is pretty significant. In addition, CSOs engage on the scientific side. So the scientific conceptual framework for land degradation neutrality, which I helped lead, was greatly influenced by the CSO community. The entire section on governance was introduced by CSO representatives. So there are many avenues for connection, but if you do go on the UNCCD website, if you Google CSOs and UNCCD, you will realize that there are mechanisms for engaging if it's your own CSO that you're trying to engage in that process. But perhaps Noel or somebody else on the call might want to speak to that a little bit further. Thanks.
Great. Thanks very much, Barrett. What I'm going to start doing is wrapping up this seminar. We're 2 minutes to the hour. We've had fantastic talks. It's really demonstrated, first of all, the international impact of the UNCCD, how that is contributing to land degradation neutrality, and the excellent work that's being done via the CSOs in different regions around the world, and also how these regions can help contribute to knowledge, I think, in some other regions as well. Louis' talk was particularly interesting in terms of showing the private financing and how there are ways that we can achieve this on the ground in a way that not only benefits the environment, but also benefits farmers as well. So thank you to all three panelists for their insights. They've managed to provide a lot of relevant information in a very concise way. So we really appreciate these contributions. Also, thank you very much to everybody who's asked very informative questions. We didn't get a chance to answer all of them. You will see that some of your questions have been answered in the Q&A box. But what I just want to remind everyone of is, first of all, thank you for coming today. We have a recording of the slides today. These are going to be shared with you via email. They'll also be made available via the Drynet website as well. And we also invite you to stay engaged and fill the feedback form and join the next webinar on the voluntary guidelines on the responsible governance of tenure. And that will be held on 6th of November. And then there is one on monitoring community-based sustainable land management and restoration to be held on 13th of November. So finally, thank you again to all the speakers. Thank you to the organizers of the session as well. And thank you very much for inviting me to act as chair today. Okay, goodbye.